let's see what we got going on. Next question here. We're going to talk about the reason that I brought you on. You had a video, and for those of you, he does. Golden Blue Dude doesn't really do long videos. He does a video every day, somewhere between 5 to maybe 8-9 minutes, and a particular subject that he talks about. And the one that really stuck out to me was the college football playoff, because when the committee said, "Well, we're going to come up with a playoff system," instead of waiting on the polls to decide we're going to come up with a playoff system, and they did the BCS, and everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to finally have a," and then after a while, it was like, "Nah, that doesn't work. There's too much human error involved. We hate it. We don't like it." So people griped and moaned and complained and griped and moaned and complained, and eventually they said, let's go back in the lab. And they came back with the CFP with this. And I think the initial thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, either of you, I think the initial thought process was they were going to start with 4 and see where it went and then potentially expand it.
Yep.
But we've been stuck on 4. And as much as I love to see my beloved Dogs and the conference that we represent in the playoff on a regular basis, it does after a while. It's like, I love Chinese food. I can only go about 3 days in a row before I had to, maybe switch it up and get some Popeyes or something. And America has kind of gotten the same way. It's like, okay, what a shock. Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, and Alabama. Oh, what a shock. But I think it's been my personal feeling that it should at least be expanded to 8. But GB, you had this whole different list of scenarios, and that's what I wanted you to. Like, dude, he was like that scene from The Office, the dude with the strings and the whiteboards. So I wanted you to explain that to our audience today about this.
Well, there was basically 3 scenarios that they were talking about. That was the 6, the 8, and the 12. And there's nothing really complicated about it. First of all, I'll say this. They didn't have to mess up this playoff idea, but they did by going from the BCS ranking system to the playoff committee. If they would have kept the BCS point system and just expanded the playoffs, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But for whatever reason, they thought that they had to change everything, and they didn't. But that being said, we are where we are. So if we expand, so the 16 playoff that they're talking about is basically, the Power 5 champions get in, automatic bid, and then, of course, one at large, I guess is what you call it. Now, at this point, you get the 2 top seeds, the 1 and the 2 seed, do get a bye week. I don't think in the 16 playoff that there's any home field playoff games. I still think it's as is, rotating the bowls through, all that stuff. So no home playoff games in that scenario. Not really a big fan. My thinking is don't take baby steps. Get to where you need right now. So don't be like, well, let's try 6, and then if 6 don't work, let's go to 8. No, don't do that. Get to where we want to be right now. So the next step would be the 18 playoff. Now, with the 18 playoff, there is no bye week because it's even matchups. But that also is Power 5 champs, automatic bid. But with this one, you're going to have, 3 at-large bids? No bye weeks on this. I really like this because I think you have more of a chance of maybe that Cinderella story that everybody wants. I mean, let's be honest. We're not going to be able to avoid these blowouts, okay? That's going to happen. You're going to have to live with it. Even in this 14 format, every year we have at least one blowout. This year we had 2 blowouts. Both first rounds were blowouts. It happens. So let's not try to, fix that problem because it's not going to be fixed. But if we can get something that's more engaging and, that Cinderella story is engaging, and with 8 teams, there's more likelihood that we're going to see new names in and out. But my favorite is the 12 team. I really like the 12 team playoff, and it's because it rewards teams. What we don't want to happen is for teams to quit at the end of the year because they know they're in. Let's sit back, relax, rest our starters, not play quite as hard as we need to, save our energy for the playoffs. So what the 12 team playoff does is it incentivizes. Okay. So number 1, like we've been talking about, the conference championships are important because you get that automatic bid. Okay. So it makes that important. Number 2, top 4 seeds get a bye week. So you ain't even got to worry about that first round. Let the other 8 teams battle it out, and you'll take, whatever leftover you get. So that makes teams like Alabama's the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Clemsons, the teams that are good every stinking year, play every game so they can get that bye week because that's an advantage. And then on top of that first round, that could be your first ever home playoff games. And I've said this several times. You watch the playoff games in the NFL, I'll even go MLB, NBA. Heck, I'll watch NHL playoff games because of the atmosphere.
CAPS, caps.
There you go. And we have never seen a college football home playoff game. Could you imagine? That would be totally insane. The regular season is already insane, but a home playoff game, that's a whole nother level. Like that would top everything. So I'm really hoping, honestly, you know what? No matter what number we pick, we have got to do that home playoff because that would be something to look forward to every stinking year. I wouldn't care if my team made it or not. I would be looking. Well, I would still care, but I would care past it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, my question is, how do you think that would affect the bowl games? Because I think that's part of the reason that they have this whole Citrus Bowl, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl. Because everybody's got dollars invested in it. Even the crappy bowls that like only the diehard or the diehard football fans watch. Was doing the research on that, and sometimes they're clearing as much as 25, 30 million after everything is all said and done. So there's a lot of money. Do you think that they're going to have to figure out how to power shift that? Because folks that are used to getting money are not going to be so quick to be like, oh no, go ahead and have it at Sanford Stadium. We'll take this bowl game over here with Buck Tussle State and Jackson State or whatever. Although Jackson State would be a good draw, but. So how do you think that would affect the whole bowl system?
Well, the way that I think about it is, well, not everybody's going to make the playoffs, right? I mean, that's the cream of the crop. Okay, so the teams under that are still going to want to be rewarded. The postseason. So that first round, you have the home playoffs, and if you want to keep rotating those whatever type, the New Year's Six type of ball through that second round, the bye week, and then under the playoffs, you're still rewarding with those top tier bowls. It's still something to play for. And basically, you're just creating a buffer between those top tier bowls and then the second round of the playoffs. So you get the home playoff games. You're not losing any money. You're actually gaining money because no bowls are going away. No bowls are going away. The only thing that's happening is 4 extra games in the first round of the playoffs as far as no bowls. Don't get rid of any bowls, no, but keep them and reward the teams that don't make the playoffs because, I'm a West Virginia fan. I don't see us making the playoffs anytime soon, but I still like it when we make a really good, maybe the Alamo Bowl, Orange Bowl, something like that. Heck yeah, I'm watching that.
Oh, yeah, even when I don't know. I think it's crazy. Prior to last month, Georgia had not won a national championship for 41 years. And despite all of that, it's almost like, oh, man, we didn't make the playoffs. I don't even know if I'm going to watch the bowl game. And then the day of the bowl game, who am I kidding? Yeah, I'm sitting right there in front of the TV yelling, go Dogs. But
exactly.
I got a question on that. How would you think that would affect the regular season schedule? Like, I mean, the games that the colleges play the regular season. I mean, since you added on the extra playoff games, how would that affect? Would they keep the same number of games during the regular season? I mean, they have to, right? Or would they have to kind of move it on down? Because I mean, that has been in the conversation before, right? I mean, just the amount of games, total, was a question. Right?
Well, the thing that would have to be figured out is, number one, do you want to keep the same amount of games, and then you're just adding one extra game in the playoffs, or you could take out one of your out of conference games. And I really hate mentioning this because I know it really helps the FCS, but then you could start thinking about getting rid of those FCS games. And I know that really helps those schools, but my gosh, those are tough to watch. I know every once in a while you have this crazy, oh wow, like Jacksonville State beating Florida State this year. But for the most part, it's
come on, man. We knew coming into the season that was going to happen, though.
Yeah,
it's different. It's different when you. It's different when you got a juggernaut coming in with 9 straight. Like they've got 13 straight wins going back to the previous season, and with including a national championship, and then they get down this Alabama. I'd like to call it Buck Tulsa State, just generic name. You got Alabama versus Buck Tulsa State, and Buck Tulsa State jumps up and beats Alabama, like goes blow for blow with him and beats him in a walk-off touchdown or something like that with the 2 seconds left to go in the game. Like, but Florida State, come on, man.
Yeah. Hey, what about Florida, man? They got scared. Florida got scared. They got into a shootout with the
Florida got scared,
That was crazy right there. I thought they were going to get beat. I can't remember the name of the team, but Florida was in a dogfight with the FCS team this year. I think they ended up pulling away there towards the end, but that was a crazy shootout. I mean, there was a lot of points scored in that game. Yes. But so the choice would be so if you're going to
Auburn and Georgia State,
do what?
Same with Auburn and Georgia State.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm telling you right now, Georgia State is an underrated team in the Sun Belt. They're up and coming. So I'm not trying to compare them to an FCS. They are more than capable of an upset. Now, upsetting Georgia, Alabama, probably not, but maybe like a mid to lower tier SEC team, absolutely, it will happen one day. So really, the biggest thing is you might have to test it and then see what the players and coaches think of having the extra game. And if they're like, no, that's too much, then you got to figure out what game to shave off. Do you shave off that FCS or do you shave off maybe a group of 5 matchup? Either way, you're going to make somebody mad. So that's the decision that they'd have to figure out.
Yeah, well, I'm old enough to remember when the regular season was 10 games.
Yep. Me too.
Regular season was 10 games, and wherever you finished I don't even think there was a conference championship back then. They just looked at your record and went, okay, you got the best conference record, you're the champ, and this is where you're playing, and based on where you're ranked is determine whether you won the championship or not. They generally would try and match up 1 and 2 and help it. So.
Oh yeah, and like the farthest back that I personally can remember, I think there was a total of maybe 10 to 12 bowls altogether. 10 to 12 bowls. And now we have like over 50, 60. It's insane.
That's crazy.
Well, it fluctuates from year to year. It depends on how much money the investors, because these folks, it's a big business now. Like there's folks that are making enough money off of maybe 6 months worth of preparation. They're making enough money to live off of for an entire year. So
problem is, here's the problem.
Or at least by my standards, because I know how much I make. I know what those folks make. I can definitely afford to sit back for 6 months.
Then there's that human element, though, because we all got to remember they're voting on these playoff expansions. And the problem right now is you have, quote, the Alliance, which is the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 on one side of the street. And on the other side of the street, you have the SEC, the Mountain West, and Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And I don't know exactly what majority vote, which way it has to go. But right now, they can't come together and figure it out. And what the Alliance is claiming is that the SEC and all the others that were wanting the 12 team, which that group right there was wanting the 12 team, the Alliance was claiming that they left out some major details, like how would it affect the regular season? How would it affect all the other academics? How would it affect this? How would it affect that? And that's why they voted against it. They said that they weren't saying that they were against it. They just want to know how it's going to affect other things before they can say yes. So right now they're just trying to figure out the details to get a unanimous vote.
I think they're posturizing, honestly, to tell you the truth, because let's be real. The bottom line for those athletic programs is how much money are we – I'm not trying to dog. I know a lot of the coaches and things try and pour into the programs and make sure – like Mark Richt was real big on increase the graduation rate amongst the players and things like that. But for the bottom line is the bottom line. Yeah. So they're trying to work out a bottom line where everybody, because SEC schools took home $54.8 million a piece after they split up the revenue. Everybody wants to figure out how they're going to split up this revenue, and the Alliance doesn't like their share. That's what it is. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's like a catch-22 because if you expand the playoffs, there's going to be more SEC teams in there, like maybe 3 or 4. But at the same time, it gives the other conferences opportunities. Pac-12 hasn't been there in 6-7 years at least. And at least it would guarantee them one team, maybe two, if they have a really great year. Same with the ACC, same with the Big 12. They just don't like that it increases the chances for the SEC. Like, you got to make the money that you can make. You can't help how good your conference is or how bad it is. You can't ensure, well, if they get 3 or 4, then we need 3 or 4. That's not how it works. It goes by the performance of your conference. And I know the SEC is considered the bully. They're just – it is what it is. Look at the records. Look at the performance. You can't go by anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, Pac-12, ACC, Mountain West, Big Ten. If you're that concerned, and I'm not trying to be the dude. Like, if you're that concerned about it, do better. Do better.
Exactly.
Stabilize your athletic programs. Figure out how to recruit yourself and get you some of them 5 and 8-star players that they're growing up down in back of the hill, Georgia, and top of the knob in Tennessee, and then get those guys to come to your programs and get yourself some stability with your coach. Oh God, coaching it's just gonna get to a point where it's gonna be hard to keep anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
If I was an 18-year-old kid right now, as I live in Oklahoma City, if I was an 18-year-old kid right now who was getting ready to graduate in May, I'd be mad as hell because Lincoln Riley would have been talking to me about coming to OU.
Yeah. You know what the crazy thing is? On one side of the aisle, you had the ACC. I'm going to say it again. The ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12. On the other side, you have Notre Dame. What is Notre Dame doing on the other side of the ACC with this issue? Like, that one doesn't make any sense. That's another thing that really ticks me off is people have got to stop playing patty cake with Notre Dame. Don't associate yourself with Notre Dame if they're not going to be all in. If you want to schedule with them, that's fine. But don't say,
watch me give you the Denzel Washington finger.
Yeah, don't give them
Denzel Washington finger right there.
Cut or scheduling arrangement, whatever. All in or all out. And if they're not all in, then they're all out. And stop doing this patty cake crap. And this is what happens too. They're not part of the ACC, so they can jump on the other side of the aisle. The ACC got what they deserved as far as, not making Notre Dame do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Be sure to like and subscribe for content and more on your new home for podcasts and independent music on the Zagniv One Radio Network.